2, 1. So, well, hey, thanks for tuning in. My name is Matt Steen. I am the co-founder of Chemistry Staffing, and joining me today is David Fletcher. David is is the founder of XPastor. Great resource for executive pastors, church leaders that are that want to figure out how to lead the church well, want to figure out how to be a better executive pastor, and even better relate to a senior pastor in that role. So David, thank you for taking some time to join me this morning. Appreciate your willingness to have a conversation. So
happy to be with you, Matt.
Yeah. So we've been talking a good bit over the last couple of weeks about as churches begin to make a shift towards thinking through reopening. We've got states like Florida, states Texas, South Carolina, Georgia have started to do open up again, roll out a phased approach to this. And so the conversation we've been having with ministry leaders is, what are the things that we need to be thinking through as we prepare to open our churches? We're not necessarily talking dates or times, but how do we approach this as a church leader? Now, David, I know you've done a couple of classes on how churches need to be thinking through COVID.
Tomorrow will be the 10th class, and I'll be very glad to be done with that. Yeah, 2-course series.
I'm sure there's not a whole awful lot of joy in some of this right now, I would imagine. So
it's been a challenge.
I bet. So tell me, what are you teaching? What are you sharing with the people in your network about how to approach reopening? What should church leaders be thinking about?
Well, Matt, let's start with this latest news item from the New York Times, just published about 15 minutes ago, which says projections from an internal report of the White House show that the CDC forecasts 200,000 new cases each day by the end of the month.
Wow.
And then they go on to say, let me scroll down here, the Trump administration projects about 3,000 daily deaths by the end of June.
Wow.
Now, that's a little higher than my numbers if we stay at the current rate of growth. And the thing to note is not the number of cases, that's significant, and we hurt for those people and their families, but the rate of growth. So right now we're at about 3% rate of growth. And if it stays at that by the end of the month, we will have 81,000 new cases a day. Wow. But they're right on the mortality tables. It's like 4,000 people a day will die, because we're at a 5.9% mortality per documented cases. And we've been at that for a couple of weeks. So that's pretty rough. If I can show you a chart, Matt, might help, because this really bears right on our topic. Can I share the screen for a minute?
Yeah.
Okay. The mortality, and you can't notice the current day because that's today. We're not there yet. Cases per test. So we have like 100 to 300,000 people who are tested every day. And that's been right here. It's been good. Again, don't notice that because I wasn't planning on sharing this, but we've been holding steady at the number of people tested. Here's the big number though, is the daily rate of growth, which we've been on a great slide and decline, but we really need to get below this 3% number right here.
Okay.
Because obviously when the rate of growth slows, hopefully to zero, then you have no more new cases. Right. So whether you have 1 million people who are infected and infecting others, or 100,000, it's a decimal point in terms of the number of new cases. So if the White House is right and CDC is right, that will have direct impact on your question. Because if we're going to have, even by my numbers, 81,000 to 200,000 new cases a day, then our churches are not going to open nearly as quickly as we hoped they would. Because there'll just be too many new cases. Our hospitals will again get overloaded. Instead of it just being New Orleans, Washington, and a bit of San Francisco, and then we heard a lot about New York City. Could be a lot more cities. I was at the gas station today, and gas was $1.45 a gallon.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it was great. But then again, I only needed like 3 gallons for
the last
couple of weeks. Didn't save a lot of money, in the long run. But as I was putting on my mask, there was a 30-year-old guy ahead of me getting out of his car without a mask. He looked back, saw me, age 60, putting on. He said, "Oh, if this old geezer is going to do it, I will." So he put on a mask, but he only had it here. He wasn't covering his nose, and that's what you also need to cover.
Yeah.
So if we're not, as a nation, going to be smart on social distancing, hygiene, and masks, then it's going to be a really tough time for churches. And what do you want to do? You want to open your church up at 25% occupancy, which is the current CDC guideline and the governor's guideline for Texas. So you have 600 people supposed to be in the room, and now you only have 150. That is below critical mass for this sense of excitement and worship feel.
Right.
So the numbers are going to drive the cleanliness, discussions I'm sure that you had with Tim Kuhl. He's just so good on facility stuff and has a great 4-page paper on that. And so it really makes more question marks. XPastor community churches tend to be a little bit more conservative, and they're targeting either late June or July at the earliest to reopen.
Yeah.
Now, some other folks said, well, open when your children's ministry is open. And okay, so the CDC for phase 1 and 2 says, I think it's phase 2 also, says children age 2 and above should wear a mask. I don't know about you, but our grandkids, if they started wearing a mask and seen everybody else at church wearing a mask, it would be better to tell them that there's a live alligator under the bed every night that's going to come out and bite them. Just the nightmares would be horrendous.
Yeah.
So I would tell you, as of today, we have more question marks than answers on reopening.
And so it sounds like you're cautioning people, hey, let's wait and see. Let's wait it out through May, see what there is to learn come the end of the month. I've heard some people talking about how we should be stocking up on thermometers and masks.
I would definitely have for churches, and they're still available on Amazon, at least as of last week, a non-contact thermometer. Because about 50% of cases that go to the hospital have a temperature above normal.
Okay.
And that's the easiest symptom. The hard thing about COVID, it's not like the flu. Man, I was throwing up all night.
Right.
Easy symptom, right? My stomach still hurts. COVID, for 25% of people, has no symptoms.
Yeah.
I could have it, you could have it right now.
Yeah.
And the other symptoms, until it gets severe, shortness of breath, temperature, and a dry hacking cough, those don't come about until you really have it bad for most folks.
Right. Okay. So start stocking up on that stuff for June, July?
I would, for churches. Buy it now. Sanitizer too, talk to your wholesalers or restaurants. I had someone say they couldn't get it because their church opened last Sunday. It was legal in Texas. Yeah. And they said, hey, we can't buy sanitizer. What do you think? And I said, man, talk to your restaurant wholesalers. And they may be able to, people who own those facilities in your community may sell you a gallon of the stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea.
I mean, we bought milk and eggs from a local restaurant a couple of weeks ago.
Did you?
It was a little more expensive, but hey, they had what we needed. And then
exactly.
Got caught up in the supermarket.
Cool. So, and as far as, so you get the mask, you get the thermometers. I mean, are you scanning everybody as they come in?
Well, that's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Iger, the president of Disney, said bag checks and thermometer scans may become normative whenever Disney reopens.
Wow. They
also laid off 100,000 people.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I would want to scan everyone at church, but if this continues, if we just do this wavy line, it may be the safest thing to do. Sounds terrible.
It really does. It makes me wonder what that guest experience is like and how we embrace that. So, well, David, thank you for your time. One last question before we wrap up. Just what's one thing that as you look at the climate, as you talk to church leaders, what's the one thing that maybe we aren't thinking to be or thinking through as we prepare for relaunch?
Well, use the CDC numbers, and you can go to arcgis.com for the John Hopkins numbers, which I use, and compute every day the daily rate of growth. That's a number that very few people are talking about, but that gives you an indicator. Are we on the uptick or are we on the downtick on this thing? And we're going to be numbers driven for a while. I mean, in the class, we covered all sorts of tips and techniques for reopening, from ushers and greeters and letting people go by rows and having family sits by groups and 6 feet apart from other families, etc. And those are all good, but it's really a question of when can we reopen safely? Yeah. And the jury for many is out on that.
Yeah. Well, that's really helpful. David, thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate you being here and all the work that you're doing with XPastor.
Pleasure to be with you.